everybody. Welcome back to the Dealership Fix-It podcast. My name is Jacob, and today I've got Alex Reyes with me. Alex is the general manager at the Broward Motorsports Treasure Coast in Florida, and that's part of the 8-location Broward Motorsports Group. And Alex has been in the industry for over 15 years. He started in automotive and spent the better part of the last decade building and running the finance and insurance operation at one of the best groups in the business. He is a 3-time Powersports Business Magazine 40 Under 40 winner. He's an author on motorcycle and powersports news and one of the most active voices in the industry when it comes to the dealership ops and finance. So Alex, welcome to the show. Let's kind of get into it, man. You came up through the automotive retail before powersports. I think most people also come up that way. I came from automotive before I got into powersports here, or they've grown up through powersports by itself. From a finance culture standpoint, what is the single biggest difference that you notice when making the switch from automotive to powersports in the F&I role?
Probably the biggest difference is people don't need the stuff that we sell here in the powersports side, right? And automotive is very transactional. It's very much a grind. And so it was a bit refreshing when I did make that move. I was looking for some fulfillment, and I was like, geez, what do I do with my career? You know, I've hit a certain point, and, you know, all respect and love to the automotive side, it just wasn't doing it. And so that whole nitty gritty differentiating between I want this, I want to create some hobby, I want to create some fun, I want to create some experience with family, friends, versus I got to get from A to B, you know, get to work and fill it up with gas and wash it when I want it. You know, that was the biggest differentiator. And so when it translates to the finance side, that engagement really is different.
It's so true. It's so true. When I was in a training role, I had to remind salespeople and managers that we're not selling pots and pans. This isn't a commodity. This is something that people buy to better their lives, to go have happiness and enjoyment. And it's a totally different culture from selling a Toyota Camry that you go grocery shopping and take your kids to school. And it's a whole nother world, man. So
yeah.
Well, let's kind of start with the state of the F&I and power sports. So the first place I want to start is the gap in the numbers. I was looking at the PSB market data book, and it shows the national average F&I per copy in power sports is sitting right around $370. Auto dealers, in contrast, they're averaging north of $2,500 per copy right now. You've lived in both worlds. How do you explain that difference in gap between automotive F&I and power sports F&I?
Yeah, that's a solid point. Huge difference. I think a lot of it has to come down to habits, right? Stats out there say about 50% of the things that we do are habitual. And so for years, I think we're slowly catching up. F&I in power sports was always an afterthought. It's like, all right, well, we sold the machine. He knows what he wants. We product demoed the machine. He took it for a spin. He loves the bike. Just go ahead and get him signed up. And so for the last, prior to the 15 years I've been in the business, I think it was starting to evolve. And then it's been a mad dash since. There's been a bunch of training. There's a bunch of companies out there, a bunch of material. And so that gap between the automotive side and power sports side has been huge. It's slowly, incrementally starting to get smaller, so to speak. And I think that comes through education, AIM events. PSB put on a bunch of events, and that networking and educational piece really kind of gets you closer to those PVRs. And so back to the habits. If you have training habits, right? I have a friend that they used to say, train like you fight, fight like you train. I mean, literally, if you're going into work every day and you're not training on your craft, specifically in the box, like, do you know your LTVs? What's an LTV? If you don't know that, you probably shouldn't be in the box.
Yeah.
What are the features and benefits of my ESC? Do I have a wear care plan? Even if you go a little more elementary, like, where's this customer riding this bike? A good, proper customer interview. And so when I entered the business, none of this existed. And I'm like, well, how do you sell protection? Like, oh, well, yeah, if you put them in the box and if they like the product, they buy the product. And I'm like, you mean protection? And it was this big mind shift. right? It was a re-education, like, hey, this stuff that we sell in here is not just paper or paperweights. You know what I mean? Like there's an actual benefit to the stuff that we're offering. And if you're selling stuff that's not a benefit, that's a whole nother conversation. And so this slow conversation and evolution of the department through education and getting the right trainers and getting around people in the industry, I think can help departments. It's got to be a forefront. And so for me personally, I have certain habits that I put in play, morning rituals with my team, personally, professionally, jump in there and grab the owner's manual and I'll start learning the maintenance schedules. You know, the education of knowing when the first valve adjustment is due, what's due in a multi-point inspection. Are they changing out the oil? What type of oil are we changing this to? And so having an educational piece really changes that PVR spectrum. The $300, $400 PVR, I think that's extremely low. There's such a potential there for other F&I individuals and dealerships to really step that up. I mean, as a group, we like to set the bare metric at $1,000. Like if you're not performing, if you're not hitting $1,000, obviously you got different platforms, right? You got boats, you've got small dirt bikes, you've got, big boy, cruiser bikes, you got sport bikes. So it's not always going to be 1,000 on, specific genres, but once it blends out, it should be at least $1,000. And
Yeah.
so the way that we're able to get closer to these, these higher, I don't know that we're ever going to get to $2,500 a copy, right? I think if we get there, you might be asking some compliance issues. But I think some of the ways that Powersports can get closer to that automotive PVR is education, getting around the right people, having a strategy, setting the right habits in play, and focusing on wanting better results.
Well, here's something that you said in an interview, that when you started in this business 15 years ago, that you thought it was a cash heavy type of business and financing was almost an afterthought. Has that actually changed, or most dealers that you see outside of the Broward Motorsports Group, obviously, are they still operating in a cash first mentality when a customer walks in and wants to buy something?
Well, I think it goes to the focus. Like if a customer comes in and says, hey, I want your best price, and you go right to price instead of saying, hey, do you plan on paying cash? We offer financing. If you don't start there and you change the focus in the conversation, well, then it's going to be the path of least resistance, right? It's going to be it'll be a cash heavy business. But if you shift that focus to, hey, I'll throw one out there. Ducati's offering a 0% for 60 months right now. Like, why don't you keep your money in your pocket, keep it in the market? Why don't you go ahead and float that 0% for 60 months? Generally speaking, the person that comes in and asks for cash deals will have the credit or the ability to finance at these lower rates. And so it's big to have the focus shifted from saying, being an order taker, so to speak. Customer comes in, wants the price, that's fine. Keep it very least resistant, but have a process in place to say, hey, we offer financing directly through Ducati or directly through Synchrony or directly through BMW. Do you want to take a peek at that? And so I really think it's dependent on the personnel that you have in play. Do folks want to finance Powersports toys? Absolutely, they do. They just don't know they want to. You've got to educate them on, hey, there's a prepayment penalty on this. You're not going to pay a penalty to pay this off through this lender. Hey, you've got a 0% for 6-month introductory. Why don't you go ahead and keep your money? Let's go ahead and get you set up. And hey, let's go over this protection plan that I have set up for you. It'll just add a few bucks to your monthly payment. Would you like? And then that's the transition there. So we do see higher PVRs with finance deals. And so maybe that's where it comes from the conversation starter.
So you make a really great point. It comes down to the training and being able to offer the customer and educate them that you have these systems and there's alternatives to just being a cash business. Maybe tell me a little bit about what you've seen with some of the smaller dealers or independent dealers. I know you, again, work with the Broward Powersports Group, but I think a lot of the smaller shops around the country, they have a sales manager who doubles as the closer. or a GM who will step into the box when things get busy or complicated. Is a dedicated F&I person actually necessary to run a strong program, or can a dealer build this with some kind of hybrid system?
That's a very strong point. A lot of smaller dealers, I guess, run it as a one-man show, maybe for personnel reason, higher volume dealer. I personally, from my experience with it, you really succeed with a dedicated individual that is highly focused, highly trained. They're a specialist. They know the LTVs. They know where they can, over exceed LTVs with, call it a Yamaha ESC product or Yamaha Gap, or, if a customer has bolt-ons. And it's not to say that a sales manager can't, but I feel like we're heavily successful because we have designated specialists that, they've got to know compliance laws. They've got to know, how to toggle through your tech systems, whether you're using Darwin or you're using, just straight manufacturer torque. And so we've had most success well, I'll give you an example, almost like a baseball farm league. You got A league, you got double A, you got triple A, and then you got the majors. And so that's a concept that we use around here. We bring individuals in, they can be janitors, they can be, sales reps with no experience. And we like to bring them up very slowly. And so for us, our sales managers do have the ability to do everything. But when it's almost like a closer in baseball. You're not
Yeah.
keeping your starter in the whole game unless they're throwing a no-hitter. And so similar concept. Hey, we've gone over the deal. We've gotten through, all these innings, so to speak. And so the deal's mostly wrapped up. Let's get you in with our business manager. He's the finance guru. He knows what your rate is, what your payment is, how many days he can kick this out. Hey, make sure you ask him about the Gas and Go program. What's a Gas and Go? Well, it's a proprietary program we put together here. We offer you some protection plans. A high level of our customers actually purchase this, and it takes care of a lot of your maintenances in the future. And so that transition there, that endorsement from a sales rep to the finance manager, or from the sales manager to the business manager, is critical. It's important. And I think that's probably why we're way above the industry average on PVR. And so can it be done, Jacob? Yeah, it could be done. Is it going to produce the higher end numbers, the elite numbers? Probably not. If I'm not a betting man, I got 5 kids. I don't bet. They keep me on my toes enough. But, if you want an elite department, I would say you need to find a finance manager. We call them business manager, finance managers. It's not to say that you can't. So my recommendation to these smaller dealers that are running, anywhere from 10 to 50, 60 deals a month, get some training. Reach out to some of these reps. I've got a couple articles if they want to take a peek at to kind of get them started. I don't run a training school. I'd love to, answer any questions for people kind of starting a department to kind of set a foundation, but it can be done. I don't recommend it.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. The traditional, play your role type hierarchy that a dealership system would have on the sales, right? So let's think about it like a baseball team or like a football team. You've got each player designated to their position, and they're specialists in those positions. The quarterback hands it off to the running back, or you got your offensive lineman, or you got your receiver, right? So you're going to go through these different positions that they specialize in, and F&I is no different from a product specialist, a sales manager, a general manager, and I believe in that system wholeheartedly. One of the things that we often see that kills F&I programs before they even start is the sales guys not believing in it. You mentioned training earlier. How does that training look like to a sales guy that maybe undermines the F&I process because they're afraid that it'll blow the deal? How do you get your sales team to buy into the whole F&I process?
Yeah, you knocked it out of the park with that. That is a common hurdle or objection in the transition from the sale into the business manager. And so what's worked for us, what works for me, is to show them that the product works. And so while they're having this training or educational piece when they come on board, I do put them with our service department. And I say, hey, can you show me the last 5 warranty claims that were covered under the extended service contracts? Pull a contract, $2,500. Hey, can you show me what the tire and wheel package covered on that M1000RR? Can you show me what it all covered? $2,500. Would they pay for that tire and wheel program? $600. And so when you get to the nitty gritty and you show them actual live real scenarios, that's been the biggest proof for me to actually show them evidence. And then the same with the GPS. Hey, take this home for the weekend. Oh, okay, cool. Is it okay if I track you just to see, make sure this thing works? Comes back on Monday morning. Hey, I saw you were over at River Ranch. Did you go mudding? It becomes big brother, but now it's effective. It works. They know the product works. And so I wholeheartedly feel like I can't endorse something unless I know it works. Like I need to see that it works. And so I devised that as a training exercise for them, and it seems to work. It seems to work well.
That's great. You talked about a couple products in there, and they're all beneficial to each customer and the product that they buy or their situation. But walk us through the core product menu for the finance and insurance office for Powersports dealers in 2026. You got service contracts, gap, tire and wheel, prepaid maintenance, ancillary coverage. I mean, which ones are non-negotiable and which ones depend on the store or the customer mix?
Which ones I feel are non-negotiable for people to recommend?
Yeah.
Without a doubt, your extended service contracts. So in Florida, they're state regulated. So they're set prices, no negotiation on the pricing based on the Florida Insurance Commission. And so a lot of people question, hey, can you get me a better price? No, this is state regulated. This is what it is. I know there's a couple states out there that allow that. I don't know the exact number, but I want to say in the high 80s, maybe 85% is the reason there's repossessions in the service department. What's the reason? Mechanical failure that folks can't pay. Excuse me. And so what worse thing can happen that someone owns a toy, right? They've invested in buying something to have fun, an investment in fun. You're never going to get interest back. And the machine has a $5,000 repair that you can't afford. So I would say number 1, ESC. Number 2, we call it PPM or prepaid maintenance. Saves about 30 to 40%. And so without a doubt, a maintenance plan so that the customer can come in. It's a VIP. They don't go to the front of the line, but they do go to a separate line than retail. You know, do you get some customers that are upset that, you know, you got a VIP and a retail? Sure. But hey, listen, I can put you on the VIP plan. Let's get you this prepaid maintenance. They're not only saving money, but there's a tangible benefit to receiving your machines back much quicker. That's my top 2. Obviously, Gap. Gap is tremendous. If customers financing, not putting money down. GPS, theft finder. I mean, that's huge. A lot of folks aren't using that. Yeah, that'd round it up.
Well, just a couple of points there that I want to touch on. You mentioned the repossessions due to the mechanical failure. So yeah, I've seen this firsthand. When I visit many Powersports dealerships, they have a graveyard of abandoned units because they brought it in, they couldn't afford the bill, and it's just sitting in the back lot of this dealership rotting away right before the bank picks it up. And so that's a huge point that I just want to stress. I mean, for years, the F&I product of a service contract has been super beneficial to those customers, and it's just a no-brainer on the cost. You also mentioned gap coverage, right? Does it make sense on a $30,000 side-by-side? Yeah, but what do you think about a $6,000 bike or a $1,000 metric cruiser? Where does the gap conversation make sense, and where do you not push it if you're a dealership?
The gap conversation is a sensitive one. Obviously, I need to be financing, right?
Obviously.
My recommendation is to offer it 70%. So if it's a $10,000 bike, they're putting $1,000 down, financing $9,000, you're at a 90% LTV. Recommend it. You can't force any ancillary products, but definitely highly recommend it. If they're at that 70% or under LTV, I personally still offer it with an educational conversation. Hey, primary insurance is going to take coverage of the majority of the value. There's not really going to be much gap. I'm not an actuary, so I can't predict what the value is going to be, but this is my recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. We talked about a lot of different products here, and I think most dealerships, whether they have an F&I person, would understand and they know the mix or what's available to them. But tell me a little bit about your menu presentation. What does that actually look like? Are you going one product at a time? Do you present the full menu? Are you using payment-based approach? Walk us through the actual structure of how you present these products once you have a good understanding of what to pitch and what not to pitch.
That's an important one. Everyone is different. Everyone's style is different. And so when I first got into the business, it was very menu based. It was very traditional. And so that was to keep things compliant. Here's your payment with, here's your out the door with, just so that everything is itemized and very simple to review. As I iterated my career, I became more conversational. I would start my presentation conversationally and basically understand what the customer was doing, where they were riding, to attach their need with the portfolio of products that we offer. I'd like to always customize because not every situation is the same. So I came up with the 300% rule has always been in play. I personally added a little something to it, the 400% habit. I'll offer every product, every customer, every time, but with 100% effort. So that's that extra 100%. That's where I got to the 4%. So what I like to do personally, and as people iterate their career and they advance with skill, they can go from that hard menu. I remember when I started in the business, paper menu. And so paper menu to conversational to now they have software where everything's presented and it's very interactive and you can move and see the pricing. And so I'd say it's a combination personally for me between the tech, the software that we offer, and a conversation.
Got it. Okay. Let's switch gears into the funding part of it, the near prime and subprime. You built a lending program at Broward. Most Powersports dealers, they either avoid the subprime altogether or they rely on like one lender for almost everything that they finance. Why does having a tiered lending strategy matter, and how does building that portfolio actually look like for the lender relationship standpoint? How important is the subprime?
Subprime is an underutilized market. A lot of folks only want what's called A paper. And so that comes back to the mindset. Hey, am I going to offer financing to this customer that came in cash? It's on the same vein, right? Mm-hmm. And so we did start a partnership with a local subprime lender. It went great. It offered everyone an option, right? So, not everyone is that higher end credit. You're not going to get a paper for everything. And so when I started in the business, not have that option and just kind of watch the opportunity kind of walk out the door was, man, my heartstrings, like that was an awesome dude. He had a 623 credit score. He's got a great job, tremendous amount of money down, feels stuck. Like I want to offer him something. And so that's where we put our brains together and said, hey, I think we can create something like the automotive space. Like there's legitimate subprime lenders out there that are doing well. They're surviving. They have a program in place. And so, we got some smart IT people together and our real life experience. And we built this program. We offered it with obviously there were some minimum requirements as far as insurance and a GPS tracker. And so the customer understood, like, hey, you're taking a chance on me. I'm cool with all these requirements. And so it worked out. It was, the repossession rates were very low. And so to have a full cocktail, so to speak, of lenders is incredibly important. I've talked to some of these smaller dealerships and they're like, yeah, we've got so-and-so bank. And I'm like, okay, who else do you got? That's it. I'm like, that's it. What about the guys that are, near prime, like low sixes, mid sixes, even sometimes some of these A banks will turn down 680s.
Yeah.
These aren't credit criminals. They're just people that had a few dings on their credit. And they're like, no, well, we just walk them. We'll send them to their credit union. And I'm like, there's such an opportunity here for you guys to expand your business and your horizons. In fact, similarly to the subprime stuff, we came up with a program called After Sales. And whether it's A paper or subprime, sometimes these loans are completely, maxed out. The bank is up to their bills on where they want to extend the financing. And so we partnered with some revolving credit companies to offer after sales. And so basically we would partner up with some of these lenders and they would offer maybe 0% for 6 months. So if the customer couldn't put on, let's say they went with the GPS, they went with the maintenance, but that's it. That's all the bank allowed. This after sales at 0% for 6 months. Yeah. Hey, I want that GPS. Let's go ahead and do that. And so when you have this creative style thought process to F&I, whether it's subprime, prime, that's where you're able to push that PVR.
Absolutely. And let's talk about something that you've mentioned in the past, and that's the Synchrony Outdoors card and how you use it as a tool for customers who may not qualify for the traditional financing or maybe who want a little flexibility. Walk us through how that product fits into the F&I process and where it wins deals for the customer that needs that.
Yeah, let's talk about a revolutionary program right there, Synchrony Outdoor Card. We use it often. What a team over there at Synchrony, by the way. A part of who we do business with has a lot to do with relationships, and they are just phenomenal team over there. And so similar situation, customer comes in, let's call it customer comes in for their first service. They didn't do their maintenance plan. Hey, I'd like to buy the maintenance plan. Do you have a price from me? Yeah, it's, $1,200, gives you 6 services in 3 years. Okay, I'd like to do it. Okay, can I make payments? And instead of turning that individual away, it's like, yeah, we do. We have the Synchrony Outdoor card. Awesome. What kind of rate? 0%, 6 months, or, whatever the term is. And so it's opened up avenues of business in other departments outside of just F&I. And so now F&I is winning. They get a maintenance plan. Service is winning. They're getting a maintenance plan. Oh, hey, I like that Triumph hat you got on. Now parts is winning. So the Synchrony card has been revolutionary in the fact that it's giving people access to money that is cheap. And so people are using it and building a relationship. And so when they come in, in 6 months and want an upgrade or they want another machine for their kid, they're like, hey, I got this Synchrony card. Now you plug them with Synchrony Bank for the purchase. So they're really doing something outside of the box. I can't think of anyone else doing this type of program. And they've got a grassroots level process to it. I remember when they were here creating the program, they're like, hey, what do people need? What are they trying to do? Talk to me about this customer profile and what do you say to them when this happens? And so that's how we use the program, and it's been successful. I believe you can even use it for gas these days. Like the customer came in the other day and was like, I used my card for gas. I didn't know I could. I'm like, yeah, it's a credit card. Like, so it amplifies the customer experience in so many different ways.
That's a great point. Yeah, we've used a couple at my prior place, and we often did a lot of side-by-side builds. They buy this big $30,000+ side-by-side, and the LTV is kind of maxed out for that program, but they go into this card system and they're able to get a tire and wheel kit or a cage or light bar or whatever they needed additionally to the side-by-side purchase. So it definitely helps out. And if anybody's not using that, Synchrony is a great company to help. Alex, let's talk about used bikes real quick, because this is always a little trickier on the financing side. Lenders use different guidelines. Sometimes the book doesn't always align. Some customers just want to pay cash and specifically avoid a payment on a used unit. How do you approach the F&I on a used bike sale differently than a new?
Well, that's an interesting realm there, the whole used market. It's almost like a franchise in itself. We personally use this tool called MotoHunt. I don't know if you know about it.
I do know about it, yeah.
We use it actively for anything related to use. When we're selling bikes, when we're looking to take bikes in on trade, whether I'm going to send a bike to the auction, whether I accept a bid on my bike at the auction. And so when it comes to the used market, it's tricky because people want deals. And so you really don't know how to gauge a deal on the fly unless you have the appropriate software there. And so that works for us. We use that. The used market, particularly in my store now, is growing. I'm cleaning out some old stuff. And so some of the purchases were a little heavy. So, got to get some of that stuff cleaned out. And so that's kind of how I view the used game. There's so many different things we could talk about in regards to the used market, but you really need to purchase things properly, because if not, the market can shift and you could lose, your bike just dropped $1,000 in value. You overpaid to start. And, now that the sales cycle is a little longer, 3.5 months down the line, you're upside down.
And thank you for all those kind words. Yeah, it's a great tool that we've built. And, used bikes is a very much needed part of the industry right now. It's where a lot of dealers are making a lot of profit. Usually they make it on the buy, as you explained. But tell me about when you're wanting to retail and you want to get funding for a used bike. How is that different? Because it is different from a new vehicle loan. Talk to me about the used bike lending.
Well, used bike lending's a little different. LTVs are quite a bit different. And so before we put them into the box, we know we're within LTV's appropriate levels so that the deal can fund. We run a CIT report. And so we're a little conservative with the CITs, contracts in transit. I personally like to have everything funded within a week. The process here for used bikes is we've retailed it, customer made an offer, we look at our values. Hey, are we making a few bucks? I don't need to make $1 million on used bikes. It's giving me a swings, so to speak, right? You got people through the door. It's a bike that cannot be replicated. Hey, it's got an Akrapovic on it. It only has 39 miles on it. How do you have this here? It's a 24. Hey, I scored it. So that when you talk about the used market, you can really set yourself apart as a dealer from the guy up the street selling different used things. And so when it comes to funding, this 7-day process that I have, customer buys same day, I get the deal washed out, we get it set up. Within 24 hours, we send everything up. We upload it. Some lenders have this dialed in, some don't, where you can upload all the docs. The quick ones, Synchrony is one of the quick ones, they'll fund within the same day. And so cash flow, as a GM now, I'm learning that, more than ever, is incredibly important. So when you're talking used game, you really want to put them with the right bank so that you can keep your cash flow moving, right? You've had the bike for let's say you've got the bike, you just bought it off the street, you get it reconditioned, you put it on the market. It's a special bike, comes in, sell it. You can get paid all within a couple days with the right lender. And so that CIT process that we have in play, we try to keep it with specific lenders so that we keep that money flowing.
That's great. Let's switch gears to the process side of things. Something that I love is always talking about process and how to improve it for efficiency. Let's start with the F&I from sales handoff. So walk us through the ideal handoff, what that looks like from the sales floor. They closed up the deal. They got the commitment. It's now time to transition to the finance office. What does your sales team need to have done before that customer even walks in there to meet with the finance manager? And what can kill the deal before it even starts?
So we're a little unorthodox with this process. We like to get the business manager or the F&I office involved as soon as credit is submitted. So Automotive, they wait, they don't meet them till the very end. And a lot of Powersports do it like that as well. Our process is customer has inquired to do financing with us, copies of ID, second piece of ID, sales manager or salesperson gets with the finance. Hey, it just submitted. My guys are awesome. They're on their credit submission software. So as soon as it comes through, it pings their phone and they're like, hey, where's Jimmy? I want to go meet him. And so that's the process. The earlier manager gets involved, especially a specialist finance manager, the better the deal is going to do. Right? You got your top closer or your top two closers between sales managers and finance managers meeting the customer immediately. Like, what's more sensitive than someone's credit, right? That's their whole life. You know where
Yep.
they work, you've got their social, you know their credit, you know they lived in Maryland. And so customers know that. I know when I go buy, I'm like, I only buy from people that I know. You know, I like to be taken care of. And so that's the thought process that we give to our customers. Let's give them a very VIP type experience. He submitted credit. Doesn't matter if he's a 500 or an 850. Go meet him, figure out what's going on. And that's the beginning of the endorsement and the F&I experience. As soon as they submit credit, my F&I guys are involved heavily. Hey, I noticed, you know, you lived at this place for 3 months. Just trying to understand. When I submit to the bank, they like to see, you know, 2 years history of living. Oh, wait, that was actually 3 years and 3 months. Okay, excellent. So it's also an opportunity to review the credit. As you're reviewing the application, now you can pull the credit report. Hey, looks like you're a 725. Looks like you had a 30-day late on your car, 3 months. Can you help me understand what happened here? Oh, I was in the hospital, such and such. This happened, but I got it caught up. That's a conversation now finance has with the lender, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most banks at this point are automated, but at least you have that intel that you can share with your lender partner. Right. And so that's kind of the early process of the F&I. As it gets approved, the deal goes back to sales manager and salesman wrap up the deal. They tidy it up. They sign off. Now the finance manager is not meeting the customer for the first time. There's a familiar face there. They're feeling comfortable. So before they even go into the office, they know who they're dealing with. They know who's handling their credit. And so this, ever since we switched this up, it's been tremendous results.
That's a great point. Yeah, psychologically in the sales process, having that person of authority or who you're going to, you know, be a closer later, having them earlier in the conversation, earlier in the process, just to meet them, familiar face, such a great point. Talk to me about what happens when it is time to transition to the F&I box. They re-engage with the F&I manager. Is there typically a moment of preparation? What does the success in closing those customers when they come in the box look like? Is there a fair amount of preparation going on? Are they just going right to the menu and adding them one at a time? What works best for you in your store?
Yeah, they bring them into the office and they say, "Come sign your life away." No, a worksheet is presented. It's gone over. Generally, that's when customer asks, "Hey, what's my rate? What's my term?" Most times we itemize all that to them. That transition is into the office. There's a lot of state documents that are reviewed, but prior to the customer coming in. So it's generally a very quick process. Once they're in the office, the finance manager has had some interview conversation after the initial. So they're already understanding, hey, does this customer ride 3,000 miles a year? Hey, does this customer plan on carrying primary insurance? Hey, did you purchase GAP on your last vehicle that you bought? Oh, what's GAP? So they're during the interview process, you're asking very specific questions that I don't want to say funnel, but the customer almost funnels themselves to wanting the product because they're basically telling the finance manager what they want. So, you know, funnel's not a bad word, right?
Nope.
So at the same time, customer has now a relationship. They've met with the finance manager. They're asking questions. They're dialoguing. And it's also improving the speed of time, right? It's improving how long it takes. Big question for most dealers, or maybe it's more of a hurdle. Hey, I don't want to offer finance because everyone hates going in the box and it takes forever. It doesn't. If it's done properly, finance manager has seen the app. He's met the customer already. We can get answers within 10 minutes. Like literally, a customer can be in and out in 15, 20 minutes if structured properly. I don't recommend that quickly because you can't build the rapport and understand the situation that quickly. Once that worksheet's signed off, finance is ready to go. They're hanging out, ready to bring the customer in the box. They've verified identification. They've loaded the information into Lightspeed. I've got a customer profile. They're ready to come right into the office. So one last little piece that the salesperson does is they do a tour to ride. So not specific to finance, but the tour to ride does allow them to meet other individuals, shake hands, understand when they come back to the dealership. Oh, this is a friendly face that I met before. Oh, hey, this is a friendly face I met before. Salesperson says, hey, make sure you go over the gas and go with Alex. I think he kind of mentioned it already to you. What's the gas and go? The gas and go is a proprietary plan we put together. It offers you some maintenances and some extended service protection going forward. He'll go over the details with you. He's the specialist. And so that handoff, so to speak, that endorsement is the way that we do.
You're so right. That transition period could take a little bit of time between the customer saying yes to the deal and the finance manager getting prepared for them to come in, and the tour de ride, introducing them to the other department managers, is that kind of time killer. So they're not sitting there just wondering what's going on. Why is this taking so long? But let's double click on the time in the box piece, because that is a very important part. And I just want to emphasize this, that that is the real tension in our industry. I think if you would survey anybody who's a customer buying a vehicle at a dealership, Powersports, Automotive, they think that is probably the worst part of the entire experience. You got to do it quickly, but you got to still have time to actually present all the products. I've seen a whole array of this where the finance manager will come out to the table and do the menu presentation at the table. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, I've seen customers walk into the F&I box, close the door behind them, lock it, and they sweat it out for 4 hours, because every hour that they have in the F&I box equals a certain amount of profitability towards the back end of the deal. So how do you think about this in terms of customer experience, proper amount of time, and getting the customer through this process so that it's an enjoyable experience overall and it's not the killer of that good feeling?
Yeah, that's huge. Timing for finance has always been a point of contention for everyone involved. Customer, sales managers, hey, I got another deal to spin. And so it's an interesting balance. It's almost a juggling act. And I think what happens is you need people kind of observing. It's almost like you're watching a game. I'm a GM. I'm observing what's going on. Hey, let me jump into the software. Customer got here at 1. They did the credit application at 1:30. James met the customer at 1:35. There's a clock to this, and it's an internal clock to the customer. But if we don't create a clock on ourselves, hey, I've been here for 3 hours. What's going on? That enjoyable experience is going south, and it's going south quick. And so the early manager intervention, the observation on the clock, the proverbial clock, so to speak, is important. And if you don't coach that, your sales managers may not, they may not be tuned into that. And so everyone's got to kind of be on the same page. Hey, we're dealing with a loose one here. He's got plenty of time. He wants to hang out. We got plenty of time. Hey, we've got Mr. Smith here, repeat customer. He bought back end last time. He wants to get in and out. So proper expectations is huge. Appointment-based business is game-changing, because then the proper expectation is there. And I don't mind, so to speak, pumping the brakes on customers if they're in a hurry. Because, hey, there's some value here to actually spend 15, 20 minutes to conversate. I know you have to pick up Jimmy at school. Why don't we do this? Instead of rushing your experience, is it okay if you go pick up Jimmy at school and you come back and we spend a little bit of important time? Or do you want to just go ahead and rush through this process and we'll just sign you up? And if you have this dialogue and now you've put it onto the customer, generally, I don't know the stat, but I'd say high 90s, the customer's going to say, hey, you know what? I called my husband or I called my wife. They're going to go get Jimmy. Let's take some time to go over this. And I want to spend some time. And so that's another strategy that can be used in this point of contention of time, the close. Like, how long is it going to really take?
You've got a reoccurring theme here, Alex, and it's just communication. Communicating to your sales team, communicating to your manager, communicating to the customer. I love it. We don't have enough communication. I think that most dealerships, they will try to shove the customer into this process that they have that works best for the dealer to maximize the deal profitability, which there's nothing wrong with that, but not every customer needs to fit in that one box. You got to be a little flexible with them. Let's shift gears to a little bit more sensitive of a topic, pay plans, right? So pay plans is something that every dealer has a unique twist on. But one thing we know for sure, a bad F&I pay plan can drive bad behavior. You have dealers paying on total dollars, reward big ticket products or presentations, or dealers who can tie an F&I pay to front end deal volume in a way that creates some of the wrong incentives. What does a well-structured F&I pay plan look like, and what kind of behavior should it drive?
Well, the behavior should drive happy customers at the end of the day. A lot of people's experience with F&I lead to disgruntled, upset, confused individuals. And that's the last thing that you want to do to a customer that has a fresh experience with you. And so I think the pay plan has to be derived from customer winning, dealership winning. And so the way we incentivize our finance managers is a percentage of volume, but it's also really more importantly is the product mix. The mix of product and making sure that the customer is getting the best value for what we've deemed over a very long time from data to be most important to the customer. And so when you incentivize this, generally speaking, you get a bad egg here and there. You'll get an individual that's concerned with mixing up product instead of possibly selling the wrong thing for the most money. And so it's an interesting mix there. You know, we've had some managers in the past sell Gap and sell Gap and sell Gap because it's such a profit margined product. But there's a lot of scenarios where Gap may not be best suited for the customer. And so rather than to incentivize a finance manager by just sheer volume, you incentivize them by the product mix or percentage, so to speak. And so we kick out some extra percentage when our finance managers sell ESC or extended service contracts. Prepaid maintenance is also on there. And then our GPS theft deterrent. We've deemed that, that doesn't negate that every other product has value. But when you dice up a pay plan based off of product mix, rather than sheer volume, I think you start to get the qualities you're looking for. You know, leading with integrity with every deal, honoring the customer, honoring the dealership, honoring the process. And so that's how we've had success, is leading a pay plan that derives the habits, and from the habits, you're going to get the results that you want. And so I've got guys that probably, could be at $2,500 a copy. I've got uber talented people, but I'm not really concerned on that PVR. I know that will come. I'm more concerned like, hey, dude, you crushed it. You did 75% on PPM penetration last month. Awesome. I don't care if that guy's at 1,000 or 1,900. Know that he's doing a good job. Or, in the wintertime, we get a lot of youth purchases, I think, during Christmas and the holidays. So PVRs tend to come down, but the way that we gauge it is we gauge it off of something that makes sense. Like, oh, hey, James is at 80% ESE. He's crushing it. Hey, his PVR is $800 or $1,200, but he is crushing all his penetrations and he's leading the charge. And so that's kind of how we manage the F&I pay structure.
And tell me a little bit more about how you measure some of those things. Now that you're in a GM role, or for the other GMs out there listening to this, what are like 2 or 3 numbers that they absolutely have to look at every single week to know if their F&I operation is a healthy one? Not like a 30-piece of itemized scoreboard. Just what's the overall metrics? You mentioned a couple things like PVR, penetration, volume, right? So what do you look at as the top 2 or 3 that's like, okay, I've got things humming along here?
Meat and potatoes in regards to what I review is cash to finance, the percentage there.
Okay.
The percentage of product mix, so is James at 20% ESC penetration, I might have to have a conversation with James. He's not quite hitting the 50% marker that we've put into play. Excuse me. Hey, how's James doing on prepaid maintenance penetration? Oh, he's at 10%. Oh, our metrics 35% to hit bonus. Why is he so low? What's he struggling with? And then lastly, it would be, honestly, for me, CIT is incredibly important. Like, do I have
Chasing your money.
chasing my money? Do I have $500,000 sitting out there for 3 weeks? What's going on here? His PVR's through the roof, but his CITs are out of control. And so those are the few things that I look at and balance. There's no perfect formula, but if we keep those all within reason, then I know I have a productive, result-based F&I guy, or hey, he needs a little training here.
Let's talk about that. Most Powersports F&I managers are self-taught or from somebody else by shadowing, or they just kind of jump in and figure it out. I mean, what does formal training look like in our industry? What does the ongoing look like? What resources can an F&I manager in Powersports utilize to better their skill set, improve all of these metrics that you just talked about? Like, what's out there available for these guys?
Well, that's a good question. We've got a trainer that comes in-house. That's how we've always done it. I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know. And so that's why we bring in trainers to come in and kind of say, hey, what's your pitch on, this scenario? And hey, do you have an objection log? And so there's different tools that different voices can bring to help improve departments. My longtime mentor has always been Rob Greenwald. He comes in, he looks at your log, does some coaching. The guy gets his hands dirty, gets involved. Will even spin deals in the office. So there's a lot of different methods. There's not one for everyone. I know there's a few companies out there that specialize in F&I training. Some of the manufacturers offer a little bit. They don't got a bunch. There's a few rogue trainers out there that are excellent. They just don't train a bunch of people. And I'm not sure why there's not more of an emphasis on that. And so training is important. Having data to review like an F&I log. It's almost like a budget sheet. If you're not looking at your budget and where you're tracking, how do you know where you're really going? Same thing for F&I guy. Where's your log? Oh, I haven't updated it. It's been a couple days. How do you know where you stand? How do you know where what's the state of affairs? What's the pulse on your business? And so those are important questions and training avenues that can be, expanded on. You really got to, I've got a few articles out there. I'm not a guru, but I've been able to, piece some ideas that have been successful together. So that's kind of what works here.
I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great. Let's talk about one more thing here about the process. And in the deal that we've been talking about up to this point is a customer does get approved. They go through the process. We're closing them up. We're pitching. We're tracking. But what about the decline deal? This is a huge thing that is happening now. A lot of dealerships are not able to get a good majority of their finance applicants through the lender. Credit's rough. The lender kicks it back. They approve a fraction of it, or they just flat out get denied. Walk us through what it looks like for you and your store's process when a deal falls apart at the lending stage and how you can possibly recover it afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think we have a process that's perfect, but we did implement some stuff with our CRM. So to your scenario, customer comes in, doesn't get the credit call that they need, doesn't have the money down to make the deal happen. Obviously here we're trying to get creative and show them different machines, different lenders. We'll try to find something suited. But if it doesn't, our CRM has a cadence of reaching out to individuals over time. I don't know the exact script, but it says, hey, I know you were here last month. We weren't able to secure you financing. We've got got bank changes monthly. We'd love the opportunity to have a discussion with you and revisit your credit situation. And so that's what kind of we have in play. We are able to save. Yeah, I wouldn't say save, but you're able to build on the relationship that you kind of started. Obviously, a customer came in, doesn't mean they're going to have bad credit forever, right? Some people may not have the credit or the situation that was ideal for them at that moment. Doesn't mean you're just going to, hey, it was a door swing, they committed time, you're just going to shoo them off. So, couple of years ago, we put our brains together and said, hey, CRM, what can you do? And so that's been helpful. That's been it's almost like another lead source for us.
That's great. Yeah. Let's talk about the digital customer now. So maybe they qualify, maybe they don't, but we're seeing an increase in customers that want to do some type of pre-qualification on the dealer website, or they fill out the online finance application. I mean, more and more customers are going this route because they want a quick and efficient buying process. How does this work within your store when customers are wanting to get in line in the queue for finance submissions, but it's going to be a remote digital type scenario where F&I managers possibly have to communicate through email or phone to ask some additional questions versus being there in person?
Yeah, that's huge. That is something that I want to revert back to automotive. I think automotive is a little further advanced than we are. We personally here have to keep, identity theft and synthetic fraud in mind. So when it comes to digital, it's the tippy-toed conversation. We personally offer digital credit ability to do the whole deal. We can set up a VIP appointment. But when it comes to financing, customer has to come into our store. And so we don't deviate from this. It does create a little resistance or friction with the customers that have the experience of buying things online. And so until we get to the point where a lender is completely comfortable with a customer not coming to the store and having chargeback issues for your dealer, I think we're not going to get to the point where we can get. So that, lenders out there, if they can do some research and, put their brains together to try to help us with that experience, that would be great. Currently, we offer what's called a soft pull. I'm sure you're familiar with it. We don't ding their credit. They get almost like a free look, like, hey, okay, let's take a look. We send it to one of our lenders that doesn't pull credit, and we are able to offer them something of substance, like, hey, we know you want a process of buying. We've got you approved. Hey, we're not going to ding your credit. Hey, here are your numbers. Oh, you're comfortable. Excellent. And then we'll set up a VIP appointment for them to come in and process. As far as delivery of the machine, we do accommodate. We're not there as far as delivering paperwork to someone's house or sending DocuSign. And I think there's a curve there that I would love to implement that and offer that, but offer that where it's safe to me as an operator of, my store. I don't want to be exposed to some, customer wasn't who they were that it said they were, and then being charged back for a machine that's burning gas. It really exposes us as a business. And so until we're at a place where someone takes, that liability, not the dealership, we're not quite there.
It's a juggling act for sure. Yeah, the compliancy and the fraud is a real thing. Bob from 700 Credit, I listened to one of his webinar series about how just this is so much of a huge problem with the online credit customer, or even somebody coming in with fake IDs, and the fraud is real. And when you put in this component of the digital side of it, yeah, it compounds it and makes it even tougher to verify these are the actual people. But yet you want to go that route because so many other industries have gone with the easy buy button. Amazon is a one-click buy. I mean, we'll never get to that point, but how can we get close to it without putting ourselves at a bunch of exposure? So I'm there with you, man. It's a balancing act. Let's kind of land the plane a little bit on this thing. Just a couple more quick questions for you. You're at the GM level now, 30,000 foot view. You're looking at this from all angles now, not just the guy in the F&I box crushing it. You got other players that are crushing it for you.
Yeah.
For a dealer, principal, or a GM who's listening to this episode right now and suspects that their F&I system or process or department is underperforming, what's the first thing that they should go look at and fix this week? Not a 90-day game plan, just like, look at this. If it's that, here's how to fix it.
What is the focus of your department? That would be my first thing. What is the focus? Do you've got a guy in there that's trying to build up your business, or do you have a sharpshooter that's just trying to make the most money? And so you, as a principal, as an owner, as an operator, have to decide what the focus of your department's going to be. I think that's the most critical thing, because when you have a focus, now you add meaning to it. Hey, I want a non-negotiable compliant office. Here's the standard of what I want. I want $1,000 a copy. Okay, now you have some direction. There's a vision. There's a goal that the person in the office can start taking some steps towards action and coming to fruition. And so that would be it. Where are they focused? Where are they headed? It's almost like, when I bought my turbo diesel, I had not looked at turbo diesels on the street ever, and I bought one. I'm like, oh, there's a turbo diesel. There's a GMC turbo diesel. Oh, it's exactly that. What you focus on is generally the direction you head. And so if you're looking at your F&I department, what are they focused on?
I love that. That's a great answer. Maybe with that, to kind of take it a step further, what's one really important metric that you think most power sports dealers are either not tracking, or maybe they don't fully understand? And why should it matter to them? What's going to help them out with this?
One specific metric that I can offer, probably penetrations. The penetrations that individuals are looking at is very important. You can kind of see, you can dive into your penetrations and different segments: dirt bikes, under 400 cc's, personal watercraft, off-road. If you dial it into segments and you start looking at the product mix in terms of penetration versus sheer volume, I think if you want one specific, that would be it. Dial into the F&I log. There's so much data there. The way that your F&I office is being run is specifically in their log. Penetrations, I always lead the penetrations. I don't want a guy, doing, like I said earlier, $2,500 a copy, but he's at 90% gap, 10% ESC, and he sold no PPMs for the month. It's not beneficial for the customer. It's not beneficial for the dealership whatsoever, because you're not generating those swings. So that would be it. Look at the F&I log, look at the penetrations, dial in, dive in, and set the right goals.
Well, there it is, folks. There it is. So, Alex, this has been super useful and very informative. For dealers who want to connect with you, where's the best place that they can find you?
Well, Broward Motorsports Treasure Coast. .com. I've got a fun page on the Powersports HQ where I put out a bunch of articles and fun things out there. So check us out. We're building something special here in the Treasure Coast. We've got amazing staff. I was blessed to inherit such an amazing staff. And then the product line is just the gravy on top. BMW, Ducati, Kawasaki, Yamaha. We've got a full lineup of financing lenders here. So we're your one-stop shop. I plan on making this the Florida destination shop. And so if you're ever down here in South Florida, please check us out. Love to see you.
We'll definitely come say hi. And yeah, the Powersports HQ that you're referencing, that's a YouTube channel that you have out there making video content, right?
Yeah, we got a Facebook, social, Instagram, and a YouTube channel. So having some fun with some dirt bike off-road stuff.
I've seen it, man. It's a good one. It's a good one. All right. Well, his name is Alex Reyes. He is general manager at Broward Motorsports Treasure Coast. He's also on LinkedIn. I don't think you mentioned that earlier, but I find a lot of your content useful on there. I'm always lurking on LinkedIn. Make sure that you hit subscribe so that you catch all of these episodes for professionals like Alex. And I guess on that note, we'll say bye, everybody. This episode is brought to you by ZDMS. Okay, guys, physical inventory. Most dealers do it once a year. Some avoid it altogether. And honestly, who can blame them? Closing the store for days, paying staff to count parts, and still ending up with inaccurate data, it's a painful process that costs time and money. ZDMS changes that. With RFID physical inventory, 1 or 2 employees can complete a full store count in a single evening. No closing, no disruption, just pull the trigger on a handheld scanner and walk the floor. No line of sight required, no climbing shelves, no bending under counters, just fast, accurate counts feeding directly into your ZDMS system. And because it runs inside ZDMS's perpetual inventory system, your data is always current. That means better analytics, less obsolescence, and fewer lost sales. This is the technology Powersports dealers needed, and ZDMS is the only DMS in the industry to build it. Talk to your ZDMS rep today, or to learn more, visit zdms.com/fixit.